homage to Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to Manjushri, homage to all the lineage masters. The supreme, profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta before teaching. Today, we continue our study of the Bodhicharyavatara. We are now discussing the merits of bodhicitta. We have already explained the validity of bodhicitta's merits through scriptural evidence. Now we are explaining the validity of these merits through reasoning. Previously, we mentioned that the part of reasoning can be divided into two parts, the supreme of motivation and the supreme of application. Today, we will discuss the supreme of the application. Before we discuss the supreme of the application, we already know that bodhicitta possesses extraordinary merits from the perspective of motivation, our inner qualities. Now, let us look at bodhicitta's application, how it also possesses extraordinary merits in its application. This is our main focus today. We will further discuss the supreme of application from two aspects. One, the vast scope of application. Two, no other application compares. So we will look at it from these two perspectives. Scope of application. The root text says, the cause of every wanderer's joy, the cure for being's suffering. How could one take the measure of the merit of this precious mind? The literal meaning is this precious, extraordinary bodhicitta, like a wish-fulfilling jewel, if we truly understand its value. Relying on this bodhicitta, all sentient beings can temporarily attain the highest and most sublime happiness in the human realm or in the celestial realm. Ultimately, it leads all beings to the three types of liberation, the states of Shravaka, Pratyeka Buddha, and Buddhahood. Bodhicitta is, in fact, the root cause of all happiness in the world, as it says in the Book of Pith Instructions, whether it is a warm ray of sunlight in the cold weather or a feeling of a cool breeze in a hot environment. These are all the blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. In other words, as stated in the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva, all happiness in the world arises from benefiting others, while all suffering in the world arises from self-cherishing and attachment to the self. So we should understand that bodhicitta is the root cause of all temporary and ultimate happiness for sentient beings, and it is the supreme nectar that dispels all suffering. As we can see, there are countless illnesses in our world. However, we know that the elixir of life, a supreme universal medicine, just like the nectar of the gods, could cure every disease. In the same way, bodhicitta possess such amazing qualities. In our world, there are 84,000 afflictions and 84,000 sufferings. There are countless difficulties, disasters, and psychological problems. All of these can be dispelled by the extraordinary power of bodhicitta. So, bodhicitta is no different from a miraculous nectar, and its merit is truly beyond measure. How could it possibly be measured? Even with the wisdom of the Buddha, it is difficult to measure. Of course, we know the Buddha possesses boundless wisdom, but even the Buddha's wisdom cannot measure it. Does this mean that the Buddha is not all-knowing? That's not the case. It is because the merit of bodhicitta is so immeasurable that even the Buddha's wisdom does not reach its finite boundary. It has boundless merit. So, we should be clear about this. When we praise the merit of bodhicitta, it is not that there is nothing to praise or that it is just empty talk. Truly, bodhicitta possesses such merits. This is something our compassionate Buddha, with the omniscience that knows all things in their multiplicity and the omniscience that knows the nature of things, has fully realized. Then, the merits of bodhicitta are clearly explained in the Buddhist scriptures, even without referring to the scriptures. In any nation, any country, or any family, no matter who possesses such bodhicitta, that is to say, a mind that benefits all sentient beings without any conditions, a mind that brings benefits to all beings, we should deeply respect and admire them. From presidents and national leaders to beggars on the street, if anyone has such an altruistic mind, they are truly worthy of admiration because their altruistic spirit is not limited to helping their parents or friends. Throughout the long future, or in the vast expanse of their present life. All sentient beings with whom they have a connection would be treated with a selfless, altruistic spirit. How many people in the world have such a mind? Most people in the world are busy for themselves, fighting and competing for their own interests. Besides those who embrace bodhicitta, where one finds someone who sacrifices everything for others, very few. We should understand that the merit of altruism is truly immense. The cause of every wanderer's joy, the cure for being suffering. How could one take the measure of the merit of this precious mind, the merit of this precious bodhicitta? How could it ever be measured? As the Buddha said in the Sutra of Questions of Srivasu, if the merit of bodhicitta had form, it would fill the entire expanse of space and even surpass it. The merit of Mahayana bodhicitta that we are discussing. If the merits had a shape, no matter what shape it is, be rectangular or square, even the boundless expanse of space could not contain it. In fact, it would even surpass the boundless expanse of space. So, for many of us ordinary beings, this may be hard to accept. How could it be so vast as to surpass space itself? What does it look like? We may have such doubts. In reality, the wisdom of ordinary beings is extremely limited. Within this limited wisdom, our perception is also limited. So, just because we do not know does not mean it does not exist. We should understand it this way, since the merit of bodhicitta is truly immense. Even if we practice bodhicitta for just a short time, the merit we create is still incredibly vast. I remember that in the commentary on bodhicitta by Nagarjuna, he also said the following words: if someone, even for a single instant, practices bodhicitta, the merit that arises is difficult for even the Buddha to measure. In other words, if someone practices bodhicitta properly and sincerely, even for a single moment, the merit that comes from practicing bodhicitta is so great that even the all-knowing Buddha cannot measure it. Indeed, this merit that goes beyond the measure of the Buddha can be attained even by ordinary beings like us, who are often bound by karma and afflictions. So, as practitioners, we definitely need skillful means in the practice. If we lack a skillful means and just engage in practice with our own ignorance and stubbornness, the practice may not be very effective. Therefore, we should rely on the skillful means of the Mahayana. In this way, we do not necessarily need to practice asceticism, nor do we need to endure a long period of time. We can accumulate a great deal of merit in whatever we do in our daily life. For example, do many lay practitioners today have the time like practitioners in the mountains, or like monastics in the monastery? Do they really have that time to recite prayers, meditate, study, and listen to teachings every day? In other words, most people and most lay people can hardly spare any time out. Every day there are endless trivial matters to deal with, and they have no choice but to handle them. This is a common situation, and in such circumstances, life passes in an instant. It is very brief. If we do not practice well during this time, we will deeply regret it. But if we do practice, how can we practice all of the 84,000 teachings of Buddha Shakyamuni in this short life? It is not realistic. So, our best approach is to condense all the teachings into one essential practice. Then, even if we practice for just a moment or 5 minutes each day, we will gain great merit in that short time. This is something we practitioners truly need. If we do not have such a skillful means, then in this life we may never be able to fully practice the Dharma. So I sincerely hope that this time all Dharma friends and practitioners who listen to this teaching in all the different places should make some special aspirations. Once you have made such aspirations, I hope you will not give up. Be sure to seize this opportunity. Be sure to set aside some time, however much you can, to practice bodhicitta well. So as I have repeatedly said, everyone should remember the scriptural evidence from Nagarjuna's commentary on bodhicitta. If someone, even for a single instant, practices bodhicitta, the merit that arises is difficult for even the Buddha to measure. So I think it is not difficult to practice bodhicitta for a brief time. We should focus on practice even for a short time. Some Dharma friends say, "My mind just can't settle down right now. It's okay if our mind can't settle. Just practice for 1 instant, 2 instants, 3 instants. We can focus our minds on these few moments. Just think to us, today I will practice bodhicitta well. When we get up in the morning, we think, I will practice loving kindness and compassion towards all sentient beings. As we discussed earlier, this is the true great compassionate bodhicitta. In just a few minutes, no matter what, we can settle our minds. If we can settle our minds in this way, the merit we gain in that time is truly immeasurable. These words are not spoken by ordinary people like us. If someone like me were to say this, someone might think, does he even know his own future? How can he talk about such merit? Someone might have doubts, but these words come from Buddha Shakyamuni and from the second Buddha, Nagarjuna, who was prophesied by the Buddha. In our world, we call Nagarjuna the second Buddha. In the commentary on Bodhicitta, he explained this very clearly. So we really have no reason not to believe it. As long as we are Buddhists, the words of Nagarjuna and Tokme Zangpo cannot be ignored. We cannot just disregard them. In the past, in this world, no true Mahayana practitioner has ever done so. Even now, some people may have very strong conceptual thoughts, but I think they have no reason to say that Nagarjuna was wrong. Hence, there is no doubt that such merit exists. Since it contains such great merit, then for many of us who have heavy karma, why would we not aspire to it? Why would we not practice bodhicitta? This is the reason that many great masters in the past repeatedly emphasized bodhicitta. So, for us right now, no matter what other profound practices we engage in, generation stage, completion stage, or any other dharma, they are all excellent. There's no question about that. However, we should practice them after generating bodhicitta. This is the safest approach for us. If we don't do this, our practice may not succeed. So whether we are reciting the Buddha's name, studying, researching, meditating, or following any school, it is best to practice after we arouse bodhicitta. Lord Atisha said that the distinction between Mahayana and Hinayana is bodhicitta, and the distinction between inner and outer paths is refuge. This is the reason. So we must practice bodhicitta. I think I'll just briefly introduce the merit of practicing it here. If merely intending to benefit is greater than revering the Buddha, what need to speak of striving for the sake of all beings' happiness? This means that even just thinking of benefiting some sentient beings, the merit is immense. In this world, altruism is truly the only nectar for us, because the merit of altruism is so great. Even if I practice loving kindness or compassion for a short time, this altruistic mind, while some people make vast offerings before countless Buddhas over millions of eons, or countless eons as numerous as the sands of the Ganges, is that merit great? Of course, it is extremely great. However, the merit of making offerings to the Buddha is incomparable to the merit of some other practices. In the exoteric teachings we study, for example, the Vinaya Sutra, the Sutra of the Wise and the Foolish, the Lotus Sutra, and other sutras, many stories are about gaining merit through making offerings to the Buddha. These texts describe the immense merit of making offerings to the Buddha. The merit of making offerings to bodhisattvas is also immense. Even making offerings to arhats and pratyeka Buddhas brings great merit as well. When we studied the Vinaya, everyone knows there were many great patrons, especially in ancient India, who enjoyed great wealth and prosperity by making simple offerings to arhats and pratyeka Buddhas. However, the merit of practicing bodhicitta, or the merit of cultivating an altruistic mind, far surpassed the merit of making any of those offerings. So, people generally think, if I make a large offering today, or offer many precious things, that must be great merit. Not only do people believe this themselves, but also others think, wow, this person is truly remarkable. He donated so much to the monastery, made so many offerings to the Sangha, and every day he offers so much before the Buddha statue. We all praise such people. But its merit simply cannot compare to the merit of truly practicing bodhicitta, no matter how much we offer, how long we make offerings, or how elaborate our offerings are. When two are compared, the merit of practicing bodhicitta is far greater than the merit of making offerings. Here it says, what needs to be spoken of diligently benefiting all sentient beings? Earlier we were talking from the perspective of aspirational bodhicitta. If I merely think of benefiting sentient beings and generate aspirational bodhicitta, that merit already far surpasses the merit of making offerings to all the Buddhas. If that is so, then not only do I make aspirations in my heart, wishing all sentient beings to attain Buddhahood, but I also engage in generosity, ethics, patience, and so on, and I interact with others and deal with them directly in daily life. In this process, I practice all the Mahayana Dharma teachings accordingly. Then the merit is even greater. There's no need to say more. Why? Because even thinking of benefiting sentient beings already far surpasses making offerings to the Buddha now. Not only do I visualize in my mind, but I actually put it into practice in my daily life. It goes without saying that the merit is truly immense. Everyone should understand this. It is very important to make aspirations to benefit sentient beings. More importantly, we demonstrate it in our actions. When it comes to getting along with each other, we can see in many ways if people have bodhicitta. Some people seem to always have trouble getting along with others. They are always unwilling to talk to or interact with certain people. Recently, when we were mailing out some materials, some lay practitioners said, "I can't be with that person, I don't want to. If I have to be with that person, I won't even study the Dharma." When I heard this, I felt very sad. These people really need to study the Bodhicharyavatara. If they haven't, it's their loss. Why? Because we claim to be a Mahayana practitioner, but if we can't get along with someone, even if we only meet once or twice a week, if there's no harmony or unity, then what kind of Mahayana Dharma are we practicing? Someone thinks, I've taken refuge for so many years, I've done this and that, but in reality, it's just a superficial refuge. There are so many superficial things these days. When we go shopping, there are many counterfeit goods. Likewise, many practitioners apparently have taken refuge for years, but they lack even the most basic altruistic mind. Especially for those living in big cities, there is a real lack of harmony when one interacts with another. For example, if a lama comes and he rides in someone's car, then someone is happy, but people from another group won't come to see this lama. Or if the lama attends a life release organized by one group of lay practitioners, then the other group won't come. Why? The reason is simply that the lama went over there. From the perspective of reasoning, that's their logic. And there are other cases, for example, when some great masters are teaching in a monastery or giving teachings in someone's home, then another group of lay practitioners immediately goes to report them to the religious authorities. There is this kind of complexity among Buddhists. As Mahayana practitioners, even if we cannot greatly promote the Mahayana spirit, we should never deliberately slander others or deliberately undermine others' truly altruistic actions. That is absolutely wrong. Many non-Buddhists don't even have such a bad attitude. Many non-Buddhists, even though they do not study Buddhism, can handle relationships with others very harmoniously and skillfully. They can deal with many things smoothly and properly, unlike some Buddhists whose jealousy keeps growing and treat their Lama as their own relatives, turning Buddhism into a family affair. This is my Buddhism. I recognize no one outside my family. I think such complicated situations are something that we Mahayana practitioners should be aware of today. If I send a package to someone and someone doesn't even want to go and collect it, the tension has gotten to this point. Then what kind of Mahayana Dharma are we practicing? When we get to the chapter on patience in the Bodhicharyavatara, I'm afraid many people will have to cover their ears. If that's the case, we should change. It appears that the mindset of those who have received long-term Buddhist education in the mountains lags behind that of those who are busy handling worldly concerns all day, and the gap is not small. Sometimes people look at them and think, this isn't the way Buddhists should relate to each other. It's even hard to see such relationships among non-Buddhists. I hope that as we study the Dharma, we should be tolerant, as I mentioned before, and have a broad and generous attitude to embrace the whole of Buddhism. Otherwise, we'll trap ourselves in a very small space, and we'll be very miserable inside. We'll think everyone but ourselves is a bad person. Everyone else up and down are demons, except we ourselves are a deva. But the world is not so black and white. So when we study Mahayana Dharma, we should truly understand what aspirational bodhicitta and engaged bodhicitta are. and strive to give rise to both in our mind stream. Of course, this isn't easy, but as Mahayana practitioners, we should at least try to make some changes in our actions. This is something everyone should work toward. As the treatises say, just thinking of benefiting sentient beings surpasses making offerings to the Buddha, and actually putting effort into the work of bringing happiness to all beings is even greater. It is even more supreme. There's no need to say more. Of course, there are two ways to explain it. Some say that just thinking refers to aspirational bodhicitta. Others say it means the merit of simply wanting to help also surpasses the merit of making offerings to the Buddha. There are such explanations. The Buddha said in the King of Samadhi Sutra, in Kotinayutta world systems with limitless offerings, if you constantly offer them to noble beings, it does not equal even a fraction of loving kindness. Kotinayutta is actually a Sanskrit term from India. It is a numerical unit meaning countless. In countless world systems, with limitless offerings and for an immeasurable length of time, if we make offerings to all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and great masters, is that merit great? Of course, everyone knows the answer. With so many offerings for so long, and offered to so many supreme objects, the merit is certainly immense. But what about the merit of practicing loving kindness? As long as we bring happiness to sentient beings compared to such merit, the merit of offering cannot be 1% of its merit. The merit of loving kindness is truly immense. So the Buddha said in the Mahasamgata Sutra, there are 3 kinds of inconceivable merit, and the first is the merit of practicing bodhicitta. And in the questions of the householder Viradatta, it is also said, when you compare the merit of making offerings with folded hands before countless Buddhas and noble beings with limitless offerings, and the merit of practicing bodhicitta for an instant, the merit of practicing bodhicitta is far greater. We should not think of practicing bodhicitta as something temporary or as something unimportant. In the past, Patrul Rinpoche and many great masters devoted their entire lives to the practice of bodhicitta. At every moment, we should focus on cultivating bodhicitta, no matter what environment we are in. Wherever we go, even at the time of death, we should aspire, may I never be separated from bodhicitta in all my lives. This is a noble aspiration, because the power of altruistic bodhicitta is truly immense. When I was translating the extensive biography of Buddha Shakyamuni, I wrote about why the merit of bodhicitta is so great in some articles. In this world, there is nothing more precious than altruism. What is the best quality a person can have? It is an altruistic mind. With an altruistic mind, nothing else really matters. As Patrul Rinpoche says, in the words of my perfect teacher, you should examine your spiritual teacher. It's very hard to find all the qualities of a prefect teacher in this degenerate age, but as long as their mind stream contains bodhicitta, you can rely on them properly and sincerely. Whether in a large group or a small one, anyone who sincerely helps others with an altruistic mind is the best kind of person. You could call them a bodhisattva or even a Buddha. This is not just the spirit of Buddhism. I think the value of altruism is actually a universal value on a global scale. In any country, culture, or community, wherever there is altruism, there is hope. So everyone should put effort into cultivating altruistic bodhicitta. Whatever good deeds we do in daily life are important, but even more so is the motivation behind them. Whether listening to the Dharma, going to work, or doing anything at all at the moment of leaving the house, or when you start your day thinking, what I do today is not for myself, but for the benefit of all sentient beings, then the merit is truly immeasurable. Therefore, everyone should have faith in the Buddha's teachings. If, as Buddhists, we ignore the Buddha's teachings, then there is nothing else we can rely on. After hearing about the merit of bodhicitta, we are inspired. From now on, I must practice bodhicitta diligently. The merit of bodhicitta is immense. If we develop this conviction in our mind streams, then the teachings of this first chapter have had some effect on us. But as ordinary beings, as it says in the extensive biography of Buddha Shakyamuni, the mind of ordinary beings is unstable, like patterns on water that disappear in an instant. When obstacles arise, our resolve resolve can vanish like a bubble. Our minds are unstable. That's why we must constantly remind ourselves and also listen to the teachings of many masters. In this way, our bodhicitta will become stable. Eventually, it will become our instinct. His Holiness used to say this as well. When we start to practice bodhicitta, we first need a mind that's willing to change. Like, I want to practice bodhicitta, I want to practice bodhicitta. For ordinary people like us, we've rarely ever truly thought about others, so it's not easy to change our mindset. First, we really have to push ourselves a bit and remind ourselves over and over, I want to practice bodhicitta, I want to practice altruism. Start this way, and after a while, it will gradually become natural. Then even when we're not thinking about it, we'll naturally think, I am a Mahayana practitioner, I should benefit sentient beings. This attitude will arise on its own. That was also the teachings His Holiness gave to everyone when he taught the Bodhicharyavatara. Here, we have discussed the vast scope of bodhicitta's application. Now, the second point, no other application compares. There's really nothing else in the world that compares to this. No other altruistic action or effect is as supreme as bodhicitta. The verse goes, they wish to cast off suffering, but rush towards suffering itself. They wish for happiness, but deluded, crush their own pleasure like a foe. What does this mean? It means that in our world, no matter what kind of sentient being, by actions or in their minds, everyone wants to eliminate suffering. We can see this clearly, whether it's beings in hell, animals, hungry ghosts, or humans in this world, all people around the globe. Do they want to experience suffering? Of course not. Nobody wants to be sick, to face epidemics, war, or disaster. People everywhere are working hard to avoid these things. That's what everyone wants in their hearts. But most people are ignorant about karma and its results. They want to avoid suffering in their hearts, but their actions show the opposite. Their actions create the causes of suffering. They end up running straight toward it. For example, some want to get rich, so they go out and rob or steal, but in the end, they don't get any wealth. They end up in prison, suffering in this life and in future lives as well. Some people want to escape poverty and they turn to illegal means, but things don't turn out as they hoped. Some others, for a moment of pleasure or for a meal, kill countless sentient beings. As a result, many of these people may get sick, develop incurable diseases, and then die without any solution, even if they don't experience this in this life. But in future lives, they will suffer the consequences. They will have to pay with their precious life and experience many sufferings. So as Patru Rinpoche said in the words of my perfect teacher, their deepest wishes to obtain happiness and what they actually do thus contradict each other. Everyone wants to eliminate all suffering, but in reality, their actions do not eliminate suffering. Some people want happiness so badly that they commit suicide. Others seek happiness and turn to drugs. Some try to fill their lives with relationships and physical pleasure, thinking that they are enjoying pleasure and happiness. But in the end, they fall into a pit of suffering they can't escape. And worst of all, there is endless suffering in the pit that awaits. So on the surface, people in the world may seem to be living freely and happily. But in reality, many of their actions lead them into a bad situation. Many wars and disasters in the world today are connected to our own actions. For example, today's floods, sandstorms, and many other disasters, like the expanding deserts in China. These are caused by our actions, such as deforestation and killing animals, actions that humans are responsible for. When we destroy the environment, the negative consequences will naturally show up in our bodies and minds. If we don't protect the natural environment, we'll face the results. Just look at Africa. Many wars there are caused by people's own actions. This is a conclusion of many wise people and researchers around the world. The same goes for other wars, the destruction of Buddhism in Afghanistan, and so many other phenomena. All of these are the result of humans seeking happiness or trying to avoid suffering, but not skillfully understanding the relationship of karma, because people do not understand the relation between karma and its effects. They end up destroying their own happiness. And this cycle leads to more suffering. This is what happens. People shouldn't be like this. They really want to find a way to get rid of suffering in their own minds. But not only do they fail, they actually create even more suffering for themselves. People are searching for happiness, but because of ignorance, they end up destroying their own happiness. Almost as if they're fighting an enemy, they destroy both the cause and result of happiness. There are countless people like this today. Sometimes when we look at big cities, whether it's people's eating habits or their behavior, most people have no idea what is truly meaningful for this life or the next. People treat meaningful things with sideway glances, but they see trivial things as something extremely rare and precious. We have no sense of our ignorance, and some would even deny this. It's like being in a group of crazy people. No one admits they are crazy. We have used the same analogy in the 400 verses. In this verse, it very clearly and directly points out that humanity today should be careful about karma and its effects. Until people know the principle of karma and its effects, they would remain in suffering and cannot be free. Even though people say they want to create nice environment, to build a beautiful society and home, there are so many nice slogans, but they should be aware that there are many negative factors. So people must keep a clear mind and observe what is the cause of happiness, what is the cause of suffering, what brings happiness to sentient beings and what does not. These are questions worth thinking about. For those deprived of happiness who suffer many miseries, this satisfies with every pleasure and severs every suffering. It also will dispel delusion. How could there be such good as this? How could there be a friend like this? How could there be such merit as this? What does this mean? This means that the bodhicitta is what brings happiness to countless sentient beings. It's what truly benefits them. When we explain bodhicitta, we can look at it from three aspects: great loving kindness, great compassion, and great wisdom. As we know, the great loving kindness is a noble attitude of wishing all beings to have happiness. This mind brings both temporary and ultimate happiness to limitless beings through generosity, ethics, and so on. When we help others in this way, do they feel satisfied and experience happiness? Absolutely, they are truly happy, just as we discussed earlier. When the spirit of Buddhism truly permeates every corner of society, many people will certainly be happy. Why is that? Because the altruism of Buddhism is not about helping others for some ulterior motive. Worldly actions are not like this. For example, when leaders care for the people, sometimes is about their own position, their own livelihood, and many other considerations. They have their own concern. On the surface, they seem to care a lot, but deep down, they may be doing that for their own status or reputation and so on. But the true selfless spirit of Buddhism is something the world cannot deny. People have to acknowledge such a pure mind because it truly shines radiantly with love and warmth. Great loving kindness can satisfy limitless sentient beings and bring them happiness. Then there's great compassion. Great compassion is the wish for sentient beings to be free from suffering. Many of us nowadays do not know what to accept or reject. So we have many physical and mental sufferings, such as the suffering, the suffering of change, and pervasive suffering. With great compassion, we can help cut through all the various sufferings in people's minds. And finally, great wisdom. Many sentient beings do not know what to accept or reject. Not to mention the profound teachings on emptiness, many don't even understand the basic principles of past and future lives, or karma and its results. For these sentient beings, we need to use great wisdom to dispel the darkness of ignorance in their mind streams. If there is a mind that brings happiness to sentient beings, eliminates all their suffering, and dispels all the ignorance in their mind streams, isn't that the greatest good in the world? How could there be such good as this? Where else could you find such virtue, such a mind? If it brings all the happiness to us, and it get rid of all our suffering, and clear away all our ignorance in our mind streams, isn't this something truly worth aspiring to? Isn't this the greatest good? It truly is, because it eliminates all obstacles and establishes all favorable conditions. This is what everyone in the world wants most. So how could there be such good as this? How could there be such a friend? Such bodhicitta, for each of us, eliminates all suffering and brings all happiness. This kind of mind is truly the best friend among all sentient beings. What does a friend do? Usually when you are in trouble or difficulty, they help you out and solve your problems. When you are happy, they make you even happier. That is what friends do. But worldly friends' love has condition and is limited. Bodhicitta, on the other hand, truly stays with us through lifetime after lifetime. In this way, no other friend in the world is as reliable. When someone has status or prospects, friends may gather around. But when they fall on hard times, when they are broke and desperate, friends may disappear. Not long ago, I mentioned the story of Khenpo. When he was later diagnosed with stomach cancer, many people who had obtained help from him before did not help him back at all. Many journalists at the time were very angry and specifically condemned these people. When he was successful, everyone was around him. Many enjoyed happiness because of him. But when he was in difficulty, many people ignored him. So-called friends and so-called companions, if you are only with them for a purpose, there is no real benefit. But Bodhicitta is truly our best friend. We should treat it as such. Not long ago, someone told me that even though he left his hometown and now lives in a Western country, sometimes feeling lonely. But when he sees the spirit of Mahayana Buddhism, he doesn't feel lonely or sad at all. He feels truly fortunate to have encountered such profound Dharma. Some people share this to me. I think so too. These are people who truly integrated the Dharma into their hearts. If we have bodhicitta with us, then whether it be a monastic or a layperson, in our interactions with others, even if others don't help us, even if others don't care about us, we still have the best friend. We should think of it this way. How could there be such merit as this? Think about it. In this world, to have all happiness and eliminate all suffering, even in your sleep, your merit keeps increasing. Is there any other virtue that can compare to this? When we recite the Buddha's name, meditate, turn prayer wheels, or make offerings, these all have inconceivable merit. This is undeniable. But is there any merit greater than that of bodhicitta? Honestly, if you look at the scriptures, there is nothing greater. That's why we say altruism is the greatest merit. Killing sentient beings is the greatest of all faults. This is something we need to understand. No matter what obstacles or difficulties we encounter, we must never abandon altruistic bodhicitta. Everyone must make this vow. Make it before all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and before our teacher. Every morning when we wake up and every night before we sleep, we remember our vow. No matter what happens, no matter how great the difficulty, I will not abandon altruistic bodhicitta, and I will do my best never to harm any sentient being. Some Buddhists, no matter how great the difficulty, for example, like when there are ants or cockroaches in the house, which is very unpleasant for people, if people who have generated bodhicitta, they will not kill them no matter what. This shows that their mind stream truly contains bodhicitta, but some people think they are very spiritual, and yet when they see a cockroach or an ant, they just step on it. That's a sign that the bodhicitta has not matured in their hearts. Of course, sometimes there are special cases. Maybe it's a bodhisattva's activity, and we can't judge. But overall, the altruistic mind is extremely important. Now, the commentary says this: as sentient beings, although they wish to abandon suffering, they are confused and do not know that the cause of suffering is unwholesome action. People simply don't realize that the cause of suffering is negative action. In our world today, whether it's naturally negative deeds or prescribed actions, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and so on, people do not realize these are the causes of suffering. Some people even say, look, those people eat seafood every day, but their health just gets better and better. How could that be suffering? What fault is there? Or their work is going well, their health is great. But the Buddha never said that whatever you do will bring an immediate result. He never said that. No one in the world says that either. People who do bad things, like organized crimes, on the surface seem to live very happily, staying in 5-star hotels every day, eating well, dressing well, everything going smoothly. But after a while, when they are sentenced to death, everyone knows. Oh, that person who seemed so happy has ended up like this. So those who eat the flesh of sentient beings and commit negative actions today, you may not see their result today, but one day, maybe this life, maybe the next, they will definitely experience suffering. People today don't even understand basic karma, let alone the profound principle of good and evil. When we plant seeds in spring, they don't flower and fruit immediately. If they did, farmers wouldn't have to wait for autumn. If we could plant in spring and harvest right away, it would be great. How many crops could we get in a year? So people really don't understand karma. Although they wish for happiness, they have no idea how to achieve it. They simply don't know what method to use to gain happiness, just as we discussed earlier. Some people want happiness for themselves, so they rob and cheat others, using all kinds of cunning means to protect themselves. But in the end, Can they really protect themselves? No. With such ignorance and delusion, they abandon virtue and as a result destroy their own happiness as if it were an enemy. For those who lack happiness and are full of suffering, many people today truly do not create virtue, do not do good deeds, so their happiness is extremely scarce, and they create too much suffering. So in this life and in future lives, there is a lot of suffering for such sentient beings. With great loving kindness, use all happiness to satisfy them. With Bodhicitta, which contains great loving kindness and great compassion, great loving kindness, we satisfy them. With great compassion, eliminate all their suffering. With great wisdom, dispel their ignorance about the causes of happiness and suffering. We use great wisdom to dispel ignorance. What virtue could compare to this? What virtue could compare to Bodhicitta? There is nothing in the world that can compare to it. No matter what practice we engage, it cannot compare to Bodhicitta. Especially in the teachings of Patrul Rinpoche, no matter what we practice, exoteric or esoteric dharma, if we lack Bodhicitta, most of it is of little benefit. It's just a superficial kind of virtue. What friend could be as helpful as this? Where can we find a friend as good as this? What could give rise to such merit? So the Bodhicharyavatara is actually a manual for real practice. Some people think, oh, I don't need to attend class or study the Bodhicharyavatara. They think the Bodhicharyavatara is mainly philosophical and that they don't need theory. They just do retreat every day. I'm always doing practice. I focus on actual practice. But I think if we can't practice what's in the Bodhicharyavatara, then our other practices, no matter how advanced, may end up as just another kind of worldly pursuit. Sometimes we may even become a non-Buddhist, because in our mind stream, we ordinary people know each other well. We can see what others' attitude is, what my attitude is, what our gross afflictions are. We all know if we lack an altruistic mind, lack the most basic bodhicitta, if it hasn't arisen in our mind streams, then our other practices may not succeed. That's why the great masters chose these great teachings, such as Mahamudra, Madhyamaka, Dzogchen, Yamantaka, and the Chan school's realization of mind and nature, or the Pure Land school's state of single-minded concentration. All of these must be based on fundamental Dharma principles. Only then can their merit arise. If we lack even basic renunciation of samsara and bodhicitta, how could we possibly attain true accomplishment? These are really important issues for us as practitioners. Maybe for non-practitioners, it all sounds irrelevant. We should choose the most meaningful practice, choose the most reliable practice. Don't just follow any teacher who gives us a teaching or any Qigong master who shows you a method. Maybe it seems miraculous. Look, my illness was cured right away. Many people today are short-sighted. They don't even think about the long term, let alone have a broad vision. They don't even consider the most basic Dharma principles. They don't think about the long term. All they care about is have health, wealth, or a good mood right now. But it really shouldn't be like this. As human beings, we should have some vision for our future lives, and for our long journey through life. If we don't, our practice may not succeed. Therefore, as Buddhists, we should study the true meaning of the Buddhist scriptures. If we don't understand the basic ideas of the scriptures, we may not be true Buddhists. The merit of bodhicitta, it's hard to find in thousands of scriptures and treatises. Therefore, in daily life, the most important thing is to focus on practicing bodhicitta. Praising the person who has generated bodhicitta is divided into 5 parts. First, self-benefit, about bodhicitta. We have talked about the merit of bodhicitta so far. Now we'll talk about the person who possesses bodhicitta. Their merit is truly immense. The ornament of clear realization says, if someone has bodhicitta in their mind stream and is a practitioner, no matter where they live, that person is no different from a stupa. The Diamond Sutra also says this. If someone has Mahayana bodhicitta in their mind streams, whether they are a beggar, a prostitute, a butcher, or anyone else, even among the lowest of the low, if they have bodhicitta, then all monastics and lay people should respect, make offerings, and pay homage to them. The power of bodhicitta is truly immense. Now, let's look at the next verse. If to reciprocate a kind deed is praiseworthy for a short while, what need to speak of bodhisattvas who do good unsolicited? What does this mean? In our world, if someone helps us when we are in difficulty or disaster, or when we are poor, and does something meaningful for us, and as a result, we get through our hardship, later, when we have some money or power, we remember, when I was at my lowest, when I was suffering most, this person helped me. We should remember others' help and to help others back when needed. As the ancients said, a drop of kindness should be repaid with a spring. So, I should not be an ungrateful person. I should do my best to help others. Everyone will say, this is a good person. When he was in trouble, someone helped him, and he never forgot. He repays that kindness. People will praise him for being such a good person. This is the most basic rule and a basic principle in our world. Mipham Rinpoche also said this in The Just King. In the world, as long as someone is grateful and repays kindness and understands karma, not only do people respect them, even the gods often protect them. What is most important in our world? First, don't be ungrateful. When someone is kind to us, we should know to help them in return. This is very important. Second, understand karma. Then both humans and non-humans will help us. Why is this so? Because usually people help each other because of relationships, but the help of a bodhisattva is completely different. How is it different? What need to speak of bodhisattvas who do good unsolicited? A bodhisattva is not asked, entrusted, or requested by anyone to help all beings. No one says, you must do this for the benefit of all beings. There is no such request. It is simply that, due to the ripening of their own Mahayana roots and habits from past lives, when they see the immense suffering of countless beings in samsara, they give rise to great compassion for them and put on the armor of altruism, making a firm vow to help and benefit limitless sentient beings. When benefiting beings, it's not because someone was good to them before or because they expect something in return. They don't think, if I help him today, he'll help me in the future. There is no such thought. Some people think, if I help him today, when he succeeds in the future, he'll help me. But a bodhisattva has no such expectation of reward, nor do they think, if I help him in this life, maybe in the next life, I'll be reborn in a pure land and be happy. There is no such thought. There are no conditions at all. With no conditions whatsoever, they help limitless sentient beings. So don't we think such a person is worthy of praise? In the world, when people have had financial dealings or other relationships and then help each other, people say, this is a good person. He knows how to repay kindness. He's really a good person. He has a certain moral code. But the spirit of a bodhisattva is not like this. No matter if someone is good to them or bad to them, even if someone tries to harm them, a bodhisattva will help them regardless. Just like when Buddha Shakyamuni, in his past lives, was constantly undermined by Devadatta, but the Buddha was never angry. Instead, he helped him. There are many such stories in the Buddha's life. There are many such examples. So when we study Mahayana Dharma, as I mentioned earlier, I hope that whether we are a monastic or a lay person, the most basic thing is to handle our relationships well. If we can't even handle relationships and spend all day fighting for ourselves, then in our mind streams, it's very hard to say if we really have bodhicitta. So, in front of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, we make vows every day to benefit limitless sentient beings. But if our relationships with our fellow practitioners are bad, we can't deal with people who listen to teachings from the same master and study Mahayana Dharma together, then we would not help strangers or those who harm us. We won't help people unconditionally because our help has limits. If you help me, I'll help you. If you don't harm me, I won't harm you. If you harm me, I won't help you, I'll harm you. That's not even the view of the Hinayana, let alone Mahayana. Even in decent human relationships, people don't act this way. So here, we must eliminate our old selfish habits. We must earnestly study the stories of the great masters of the past and see how they used altruistic bodhicitta to help countless sentient beings and attain realization themselves and finally liberate all sentient beings. Although our abilities are not yet mature, we must learn from them and pray to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that bodhicitta will ripen in our mind stream as soon as possible. we should always have such an altruistic mind. Anyone with a mind of gratitude and repayment is praised by people as one who knows and repays kindness, let alone a bodhisattva who, without being asked, is willing to benefit sentient beings of their own accord. This is an obvious fact. Such a bodhisattva, no one has asked them, no one has told them to do it, but they willingly help so many sentient beings that merit is truly immense. Okay, we'll stop here for today.
Bandara Banma Sodargye